So I think we're starting to see a pushback. I think it's a natural thing that children like to oppose authority. And right now, the authorities are saying things that some of the children are saying, it doesn't make too much sense. I see that also when I speak in schools. And that's something that Steve Goreham, our next speaker, does. He's actually spoken in colleges as the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America. That's a US affiliate of the ICSC. So Steve, of course, is doing some of this grassroots awareness with teachers in schools as well. CSCA is a non-political association of scientists, engineers, and concerned citizens focused on educating Americans about the realities of climate change. He is also author of the book, Climatism, Science, Common Sense, and the 21st Century's Hottest Topic. And you'll see he'll also be signing his book outside in the foyer from 11:15 to 11:45. The website, if you want to check out his book online, is climatism.org. A former electrical engineer and business executive for Fortune 100 and startup companies, Steve lectures and writes articles on climate change and renewable energy and is working to bring awareness to Americans on a grassroots level. So I won't say any more and introduce Steve Goreham.
Thank you, Tom. Well, good morning. Great to join you this morning. As Lord Christopher Monckton says, I'm just a lay person, and so it's quite an honor for me to join this group today along with Professor Bell and Dr. Schmidt and all the other great scientists. I'm also a relative newcomer to the climate battle, and my hat is off to all the great scientists and the members of this room who have been fighting the battle for many years. Where'd the slide advancer go? Thank you. Well, it's been 20 months since ClimateGate, the hacked release of emails from East Anglia University and the climate research unit there. And what I'd like you to consider this morning is when the ship of man-made global warming ran into ClimateGate, did it hit an iceberg or did it hit an ice cube? It is true that the momentum of man-made global warming has slowed over the last 20 months. We've had the Copenhagen 2009 conference. We've had the Cancun 2010 conference. Many advocates and attendees there wanted to see mandatory greenhouse gas restrictions on the nations of the earth. That did not happen. In 2009, cap and trade failed in the United States Congress. And the fall elections of 2010 brought a new crop of members of Congress, many very skeptical of the theory of man-made global warming. And it appears at the end of 2012, the futile Kyoto Protocol Treaty will end without a successor. Now, yesterday we heard some euphoria, and we also heard some statements about how they know they've lost. But I think an objective observer would have to say that the ship of man-made global warming hit an ice cube and not an iceberg. Ladies and gentlemen, scientists and honored guests, the world is in the grip of a madness. The world remains in a grip of a madness. This madness is climatism, the belief that man-made greenhouse gases are destroying Earth's climate. Today, 193 of 194 heads of state of the nations of the earth are trying to put futile policies into place to stop the planet from warming up. Chancellor Angela Merkel has said, climate change is accelerating. It threatens our well-being, our security, and our economic development. President Obama has said, the science is beyond dispute and the facts are clear. Prime Minister David Cameron says we have a moral imperative to act and to act now. And from Dr. Carter, we heard this morning about how Prime Minister Gillard is pushing a carbon tax in Australia. Now, I may have missed the memo, but I don't remember that any of these 193 have changed their position in the last 20 months. And as a matter of fact, President Václav Klaus of the Czech Republic remains the only head of state who has challenged the theory of man-made global warming. All of our major scientific organizations are firmly in the man-made global warming camp. Yes, the Royal Society in the UK has softened their position, but they all still think that man is responsible for the recent 20th century warming. Maybe it's because we have an ideology at play here, and this is not just a question of science. And in the United States, professors and chancellors of 676 universities have signed the President's Climate Commitment, stating, "We recognize the scientific consensus that global warming is real and is largely being caused by humans. We further recognize the need to reduce the global emission of greenhouse gases by 80% by mid-century at the latest." Recently, I participated in a week-long online voice thread with college students of Elmhurst College in Illinois. And after that was done, I want to read a few of the amazing statements they made. One student said, "I always thought that global warming was happening because of what humans are doing to the earth and never even thought it could be for other reasons. I was actually shocked to hear that there is possibly nothing we can do and it is just a natural process occurring." Another said, "Your position is very new to me and I find it to be quite interesting. It's very similar to finding out that there is no Santa Claus." This is a college student, folks. And another said, "We have all basically been totally misinformed and it is horrible to think that such a large amount of people are so duped. How is it that something that is so definite as to be in textbooks and backed by so much research has been able to be propelled into a desperate cry for help around the world? Ladies and gentlemen, we have an entire generation of young people that are being taught the false ideology of climatism." And of course, as many have said in this conference, climatism is being propelled forward by money. The Pew Environment Group estimated that in 2010, the world spent $243 billion to try and convert from our traditional hydrocarbon fuels to renewable energy. And that went up 30% from 2009. U.S. federal and state governments are spending $20 billion a year to subsidize renewable energy. And the U.S. federal government spends an additional $15 billion on climate change research, but as we heard earlier, very little of that research is to determine how the climate works. It's to determine what are the impacts of man-made climate change. Oh, and the Fortune 500 companies, just about all of them have signed up to man-made global warming. Even the American Petroleum Institute has an official position that warming is due to man. And then we have C40, the Large Cities Climate Leadership Group. Those are mayors working around the world to try and stop emissions and save the planet. Chairman Michael Bloomberg says, as an elected official, your job is not to ask the public where they want to go and get behind them. Your job is to tell the public and convince the public where they should go and lead from the front. And this reminds me of a quote by Václav Klaus, where he says, "Being often with many leading politicians, I feel frustrated they do not listen. They already know. They fully subscribe to the idea that talking about saving the planet is an effective way to show they're caring for humanity." So the political leaders, the intellectual elites, they've already made up their mind.